Welcome. So here we are again, and today I thought that what I'd really like to do is a one-card tarot reading for you. And it's a beautiful day. It's a perfect day for it. There's this amazing soaking rain coming down. The trees all have leaves on them. There are cats cleaning themselves on the windowsills. It's a really great day. And as part of that, the card deck that I'm going to use today is the Druid Plant Oracle, Working with the Magical Flora of the Druid Tradition by Philip and Stephanie Cargolm, which I'm probably mispronouncing. Anyway, I love the imagery on here. I love the information that they give about the plant, as well as like historical, prehistorical uses, traditional uses for the plant, modern uses for the plant, and then also the sort of the story that the plant tells when you've pulled that plant in your reading. And so here are the cards. And generally speaking, when I'm giving a reading, or when I'm even just pulling a card for a friend, I like to have a clean surface. I actually have a couple of pieces of fabric. I never even hemmed the edges of these, but they have been set aside specifically for the purpose of putting cards on and doing other sort of work on or with. And I fold them up and sew them away when they're not in use, so that really that is what they are there for, and they are very clean at the time that I am working with them. The next thing that I'll do is I'll kind of sit and I'll take a couple of deep breaths, and I'll have all of my bits and pieces around that I'm going to need to give the reading or to pull the card with some real intention. If I just need a really quick fix, I'm just going to open a book to a page and see what I come up with. So for example, here's the Druid Plant Oracle, and if I was saying, hey, I just want to check in about, I'm having a tough moment, I need some encouragement, or I'm having a tough moment, I need to remember the bigger picture. So I'm just going to, open this book to something inspirational and see what it says, and see how that applies to my life or to this tough moment or whatever it is. So I happen to have opened to Herb of the Goddess, which is mugwort. Mugwort was revered in antiquity as an herb of great magical power. Pliny and Dioscorides both mention its reputation, and Pliny records sea mugwort's use in Egypt to honor Isis, the goddess. As an herb sacred to the goddess, its Latin name is probably a dedication to Artemis, goddess of the moon and childbirth. Known throughout Egypt and the classical world, the Celtic, Germanic, and Slav peoples also revered this plant, which they used for a wide range of medicinal and magical uses. And although we can't be sure that the plant mentioned by classical writers is Artemisia, by the Middle Ages the identification is certain. By then it was often known as motherwort and was attributed to Venus. It was used for treating female ailments, epilepsy, and cramps, and herbalists today continue to use it as an antispasmodic. It is good for stimulating the menses and as a worming agent, and was used for smoking, flavoring beer, repelling insects, and vanquishing fatigue, with sprigs being placed in shoes to relieve tired feet. The plant was considered highly effective in banishing the harmful influences of witches or spells, and it was even believed to offer protection from poisonous animals. As a protective herb, it was hung over the entrance to a house to guard against lightning or misfortune, and, if hidden under the doorway, would ensure protection against unwanted visitors. Mugwort is also said to aid clairvoyance, and an infusion may be drunk as a tea before divination or scrying, and can be rubbed in crystal balls or scrying mirrors. Well, what a perfect thing to turn to when I'm about to do a reading, that I feel like I just turned to a friend or a helper for that purpose. So that's really cool. and then I would happily be along my way. And in this case, happily being along my way is doing a one-card reading. So generally speaking, one-card readings are check-ins. You're checking in that sort of general way. You can check in about something specific. That is a hot surface vader. Oh, good boy. Cat family. And the biggest challenge with any reading, and one of the reasons that it's really hard to read accurately for yourself, is that you have to let go of what you're about to be told. You have to let go of what you want to be told. You have to let go of your fear of what you might be told. You have to let go of the direction you really want to go in, because chances are, if you're asking for a whole bunch of opinions, there's a pull between the direction you want to go and the direction you think you should go, and you're being pulled back and forth. And, you know, if you're asking people, if you're asking cards, I meant people generally, but the same thing. You know, you need the reassurance that you're making the right decision because there is doubt. And it may not even be your doubt. It might be, you know, your mom's doubt, or your sister's doubt, or your boyfriend's doubt that is pulling you in a different direction or towards a different decision, or just making you feel really insecure about the path that you have already committed to. And so one of the benefits then of asking a friend or a total stranger to pull a card for you is that they can hold this question or this topic in their minds for you, and hopefully not really have an attachment to what is going to come of it, to what kind of card is going to be pulled or what the message will be. So for me, if I'm going to read for somebody else, especially if they're a stranger I've never met before, or if I'm in a room with a bunch of people, I will just, you know, put my hand in their hand, or put their hand in my hand briefly, you know, one hand, finger touch, whatever it is that they're comfortable with, so that I can make sure that that is the energy that my reading is for and about, is connected to, that those are the vibrations that I'm about to, you know, pull a vibrational card for. Oh my gosh, look at that. On the bottom of this deck that I have not yet shuffled is mugwort. Interesting. I love that. And so the one sort of influencer that I would say that I do use is to say, you know, what is the most helpful thing right now, or, you know, what is the most informative thing right now, so I can ask for the positive, not for the beware of the, you know, a tall, dark, and handsome stranger. No, what we actually want is, okay, you know, are you in a good relationship right now? Is it good for you? Are you benefiting from it? Or even more specifically, since the benefit might be that you're learning a valuable life lesson, is this relationship in your highest good? Is it a long-term relationship? Those sorts of things. And again, all of these questions, it's really hard to have a definitive yes or no. Like when you're using a pendulum, you want to ask very specific questions that the only answer could be yes or no. Because your yes and someone else's yes could be very different. It's very easy to miscommunicate when nobody's actually talking. And so again, if I'm saying what's in my highest good, well, my gosh, you know, many of the horrible things that have happened in my lifetime, it turns out that probably they've been in my highest good. But they sure didn't feel like it at the time. And I certainly would not have asked for those things to happen or have wished them on someone else as a life lesson or an opportunity somehow. So often what I'm holding in my mind is what would be the most useful information for them at this time, or, you know, how can they be supported, or, you know, hey, just here's the question. So now that I've sat down, I've gathered all of my tools and resources, I have the book, I have the fabric that I'm sitting with, I have the cards, I have you. I've connected with my person that I'm going to do this reading for, and then what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to shuffle. And sometimes I'll shuffle before I connect, because what I want to do is use that as an opportunity for airing out the cards, for kind of removing any connection that was there from previous readings or previous people that I've done readings for, or the fears that I've had handling the deck. I have my own concerns. I want this reading to benefit this person. I want it to be of benefit, of use. And I want it to be accurate and appropriate for the person and for the topic, which, I am often nervous about that, even though I've been doing this for a long time, because I care. I care that the outcome is of use. So I'm going to shuffle. I'm just going to get some air in the cards. This deck is kind of big for my hands, so I tend to not do the corner shuffle thing, but if you know how to do the corners and bridge, do all of that, great. Go for it. That's a great way to really shuffle it up. Some people say there's a certain number of times that you're supposed to shuffle the cards. If you are really into numerology, if those numbers have deep, important meaning and you utilize them in every aspect of your life, then it makes sense to me that you would want to count the number of shuffles of the tarot cards and that sort of thing. Because even that then will have a deeper level of meaning for you than it does for me. For me, I just go till it feels right. I'm done when I'm done, so here I am, I'm shuffling. And then, I've connected with my person, or now I'll connect with my person. I'll say, okay, what's our topic? What are we doing? What are we asking? What are we sitting with? And right now, I think what I'm going to do is sit with tarot readings on YouTube, with the idea of vlogging a tarot reading, because I have this idea that a friend actually suggested where I would love to have somebody write in and ask me to do a reading for them and be able to, have a conversation with them in private about the reading, but have their official permission to videotape the reading and then publish it so that they can benefit and watch it, but also so that others can see what that's like for them and for me. In fact, doing this long distance basically via vlog here, video, would be one way. Another way that I would love to do at some point is to videotape an in-person reading so that you can see their responses, so that they're, oh my gosh, that's me, or I don't really feel that one. All of that gets recorded and used. That would be really fun, I think. But I'm going to see, if there's additional wisdom to be had or a perspective that I don't have on that. So I'm going to try and remove, my yes, let's do this attitude and take a few deep breaths and just have the thought in my mind and just let it sit there, kind of like meditating. Oh, there's a thought. Oh, there's a thought. I'm going to let that thought sit in there, and the thought is reading tarot on YouTube. Reading tarot on YouTube. Reading tarot on YouTube. And then I'm going to shuffle again, because I'm now going to shuffle that topic into the cards. Reading tarot on YouTube. And sometimes when you're doing this, a card will just leap out or will separate itself from the deck. So I'm not going to pick this card because it didn't do this, but sometimes I'll be doing that and I'll end up with a card that's like this a little bit in my hand, and it's just sitting out like that. It doesn't want to do that because it's not the right card. And I'll be like, oh, that card's kind of sitting out. I guess that's the card. Or I'll end up with a card that's like, crazy out of the deck, and I'll say, oh, that must be the card. It's jumping out of the deck. Or I'll even fumble and I'll have a card drop, or a set of cards drop, and I'll say, oh, that is a conversation on this topic that I need to look at, or that I'd like to look at. So anyway, right now, I don't feel like I'm done shuffling because I got distracted. So, reading tarot on YouTube, me reading tarot on YouTube. What do we think about that? So I found a little bit of a space, and I've kind of emphasized it so you can see it. And I think what I'm going to do is pull the card below that, and then actually what feels right is to pull just that card. Sometimes I pull the card above and below, sometimes more cards come out, like the card below that one would then come out too, but just one card, which is great because that was the intention, was a one card reading. Garlic. So here's the card. Let's see here. And I love this deck because it says the name right here, but then there's almost always additional imagery. So there might be, you know, something hidden in here, like the way these stones are stacked so intentionally. Is that part of a structure or part of a memorial? The fact that it looks like oak trees or beech trees in the background. The stream. Do I see anything else? At the moment, that's all I see, but now I'll read the card and it will tell me. Garlic. So let's see, this book is alphabetical, which is really helpful because I can just turn to where garlic is. So again, this is the Druid Plant Oracle, page 51. Garlic. Purification, flavor, the exotic. And the reversed is protection, vulnerability, and discrimination. And right there already, that's a pretty great perspective because that echoes some of the concerns that I've had about doing this, which the fact that I already see a relationship between what the card says and what I've been thinking tells me that, you know, this card is probably valid. It's probably a reading about the topic that I was holding in my head. I have occasionally pulled a card that the person could not connect with at all and said, okay, well then either there's something that you don't know right now that means that this might be relevant in a way that neither one of us understands at this point, or I didn't connect in well and this card is not for you, and either let's try again or let's accept that it's not the right time and place for me to give you a reading on this. So reading tarot on a vlog, on a YouTube channel, you know, there is a purity or a flavor to it that could be very pleasant. The exotic, I do have a concern that, you know, people will suddenly start coming on here and saying, oh my God, that's witchcraft, you know, you are evil and all that. I don't want to deal with that BS, quite honestly. That's, if they had any openness when they looked at any of my videos, I think that it would be pretty clear that I am doing my best to have integrity, be a good person, be respectful, be accepting. Those are values that I hold very dear. And while any religion or spiritual belief can be twisted to something truly evil, that is certainly not where any of them begin. And the reversed, the protection, vulnerability, and discrimination, there is a vulnerability to doing this. This is a part of myself that I had trouble accepting for a long time, and putting it out here like this is kind of, it makes me vulnerable. And discrimination. Again, there's that concern of like, well, what about the friends I've made through my quilting? You know, there is a level of telling a story that either they've identified with through historical storytelling quilts, or they have chosen to ignore or have just not even noticed or been aware of. And what if they suddenly realize that I'm a tarot reading, you know, clairvoyant, whatever I am, clairsentient, you know, oh my gosh, am I going to lose friends? Wild garlic, usually called ramson, is indigenous to Britain. Common garlic, now used for cooking and medicine, was probably introduced by the Romans and perhaps originated in Siberia or Southwest Asia. The card shows ramsons growing in the ash woods of Craftnant, which I probably did not pronounce correctly because I believe that's a Welsh title. The Valley of the Ramsons in Snowdonia, Wales. Yep, Welsh. Like bluebells, they favor damp woodlands where they gather in vast drifts of green and white. The upright meaning of garlic. Garlic has the ability to flavor food deliciously, as well as being a powerful antiseptic and antibiotic. The combined qualities of purification and flavoring are surprising and unusual. Selecting this card may indicate a need to consider how you can purify and strengthen an aspect of your life without introducing any element of sterility. Ooh. Yeah, I kind of sterilized this for you. That's interesting. Often, when we feel the need for change, we envisage removing things from our life, and this may be the right course to take. But consider first, sorry, I'm reorganizing here. Consider first whether there is something you can add to your life that will naturally replace that which is bothering you, without you needing to exert any effort in eliminating it. So what can I add to my life to replace what's bothering me? That's kind of part of what I'm doing. I miss doing the seeing and the life coaching work, and so I'm finding a way to replace that with these little online conversations, although they're getting longer and longer. You know, my life coaching sessions did that too in the beginning. I finally realized I just needed 2 hours with a client, so that's what we did. And it was a lot. It was a lot, but it was the right amount to actually get from a beginning point to a place where it was appropriate to pause, where they had tools and they had shift happening for them. So there was a completion that could happen in 2 hours that, at least for me, was very difficult to find in just one. In 1 hour, we would, come to an understanding of maybe the first layer, which really doesn't encompass the challenge that we're facing. It's just what we've papered over that challenge with. So it's not particularly helpful to focus on fixing that or understanding that or doing ritual around that when that's not really the problem. That's actually the first sign, that the most obvious sign that there is a problem. The card may also indicate that it is time to introduce something new into your life, something that in the past you had considered too exotic or too unconventional, but which now is starting to attract you. Well, yeah, that's, yeah. I have not called myself a clairvoyant before. I have not used those titles. I've actually used the title shaman fairly easily, but that's not all-encompassing. And even there have started to be sort of expectations and limits and rules about how to be a shaman or what makes you shamanic. And yet again, I don't really fit a mold. I don't fit that mold. So, yeah, but anyway, just being straight up front and saying, hey, I have this and I do that is kind of new. I'm incorporating it. So, yeah. And with that, thank you for this conversation, and I look forward to talking with you again soon. Be well.